So I haven't made a video or a long kind of cook up in a while, and I thought, well, I'm gonna cook up anyway, so I might as well just record the process. But I have a kind of idea for a melody, like kind of a pad, ambient R&B, dark, vocal-esque kind of thing. So I'm just gonna cook up and see where it goes. So let's just straight in. So I've just pulled up Analog Lab and I'm going to use one of the presets I made and just see where it goes. I kind of want to make something kind of like a 4-1, or maybe I can go like that. Make kind of like a 9th, drop down to 1. Yeah, I like that. And then probably move that over to there. And then to make it a 4-1 in minor, just first chord up 5 semitones. There, A sharp. I drop the sample down a little bit. Turn it down a little bit. That's too much lower, so I'm going to cut them or reduce them a little bit. And then I think I'm going to just kind of load it up with some typical effects I'd use. So Flanger, Flangus. Just kind of make it a ambient layer, chorus. And then I might add a little bit of reverb. So vintage verb, can make it background-ish. I feel like I can build upon that quite easily. And we just got this ambient layer. So jump back in Analog Lab, I kind of like layering some of it. I want to build a nice like simple foundation, and then I have some vocal idea I want to put on it. I think a pad, like a nice glide pad like this. Yeah, this will be nice. That's kind of a backgroundy sound. Makes it a bit kind of spreading. So pancake 2, mix down, know what I do. And then make it a bit wonky. Bring that down. I like using lots of reverb. I feel like it just adds a lot of space to it. And then stereo separate a bit. Maybe just add a little bit more before I get into kind of vocal process. I just lay down a bass. I can always change that later. A bit lower down there. I feel like maybe the whole sample's a bit lower. It's not much of a key change difference, but F sharp. I can record vocals a little bit easier in F sharp as well. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of split by channel. I'm going to grab this layer, gonna render these out. All I've done there is I've held left control, left click to highlight it all, and then just control alt and then C, and then do that. Make sure cover remainder is on. And then I feel like I kind of want like a fade in choppy effect, and then chop it up, make sure it's generic bleeding. And you can do this with sidechain, but I feel like it's always much more, like I can tweak it exactly how I want it this way. Feels like kind of sample-ish, which I like the sound of. And now a trick I have learned recently, which is select it all with control and then hit 9. And what that does is it basically reverses everything, but in like the chopped bit it has. So it's not gonna flip the melody around like what it normally does. Has more of a dreamy feeling now. And now I can't record vocals while I'm recording. It doesn't work for some reason. But what I'll do is I'll just quickly record a vocal line and then I'll break it down afterwards of just what I've done. So it's been a few minutes since that and I've laid down a simple vocal idea. Now, I'm not the best at singers. I'm actually really horrible at singing. It's like pretty devastating. But I feel like with just practicing so much, I've kind of got a mixer effect which works for me, my vocals and my horrible singing. So I'm going to play this. Bear in mind, it's pitchy, but it doesn't really matter in the sample. All of my best vocal samples and best samples with vocals I've done have been very pitchy, still being used. So you can't complain too much, but this is what it sounds like. So as you can hear there, it's not that good. There's lots of background noise, but it doesn't really matter because we'll just kind of fix up little bits. It'll be a background texture. So the first thing I'm going to kind of do with the vocals is I'm going to just cut out the little empty bits so it stops the metronome, because I like to have everything really loud in my ear when I'm recording vocals. I don't know why, it just kind of cuts out my horrible singing to myself. And for vocal effects, this is my chain. It won't work for everybody. I've kind of developed this while I've kind of been continuously doing samples, but I've got a little alt board. This is turned off for now. I don't always use it. I just kind of like it in case I need it. But I've got auto tune and I've got the key down here. I just leave this generic, and then I don't want it too auto tuney, so I've got these effects up here. And now my go-to is an LA2H. This is just kind of getting the highs, the lows, bring them all to the kind of similar levels, and then a ping pong delay. Pretty sure this is just ping pong preset, and then the out knobs just turned down a bit, and then this is what I'll end up adding on later. I have it off for right now just because when I'm recording my vocals, it's very loud, but I really like this reverb. And then we got a simple wider just to kind of stereo the vocals a little bit. So now I've got my vocals all done. I'm gonna leave all these effects on. This is just the way I do it. It's probably not the correct way. And then I normally like to clone the arrangement just so I have my vocals as a backup. And then I'm gonna highlight all this, Control G to group it. This is gonna put it all into one WAV file. It does have all the effects baked in, which were turned on, which you might not always like, but I feel like it's easier for me to work. Yeah, so we've got this kind of simple vibe here. I think this is going to be kind of an intro section. Bring the vocals down, click here. I'm going to make unique. And then a trick I like doing, and it doesn't always work out, but I feel like it might with this, is I'll reverse it on the second bit. Yeah, it's going to work perfectly. I like to go for a ROM reverb, kind of up it a little bit. And then I'm going to just try and find some like kind of chops I like with it. And then back to these vocals, which were the intro vocals. I did say I'm going to eventually put this on. So I'm going to just drag this over, put this on, just so I can have intro. Like that. Could have some lows, because it's adding a horrible texture here. And then I want to kind of make this like a B section. So I'm going to add a few elements onto it. Here what it sounds like without that maybe. Yeah. So instantly take away that, build that with a new kind of element. I'm thinking a string kind of ambient section. So and then also, I'm going to just try and find some elements to give it more ambience, because I feel like there's just something missing. them up just so it fits a little bit better. Then also reverb. And now it's kind of muddying out everything. So I'm gonna just go back to all these and I'm gonna just kind of slowly mix through them, find all my layers. Wider. This, I might go mono, give it a bit of space. Also mono. I might spread these. So these layers, yeah, I might leave it more ambient and then for like a section, add them layers back. So if I delete them, do that. Yeah, kind of like an ambient intro, outro section, I mean. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just arrange it a little bit better, add a few little things, and then I'll play the outro sample. And then I think we've got it all sampled. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but yeah, I appreciate you for watching.